Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai. Want to give our praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Give double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone that rule well. Salutations to the men of the hopeful and sincere elect. It's Makazar from the Trinidad camp. Just want to do all of the edification. Alright, for the elect's sake. Alright. Now, as you can see from the picture here, it's showing you events, historical events where America actually, well, posed a false flag to have a change of events. Alright, now we can see we're during World War One, alright, with the Lusitania, alright, and they actually ended up in the war, alright, with Pearl Harbor with the Japans, alright, when they entered into the Vietnam War and when they entered into Iraq, alright, because during the time of the Lusitania, when they had with World War One, the Germans actually said that the German embassy in America put out an article in the New York Times that any American ship that passes in German waters, they're doing so at your own risk. And the U.S. government fully shipped with ammunition, and actually they still sent it full with people also, because they were hoping, and it happened, that if the Americans lost a mass amount of lives to the Germans, that they would actually, agree with them joining the war, and it so happened. And the same thing with Pearl Harbor. It was provoked, and they knew about it. I believe it was months before it happened. So they knew about it, and it was provoked. The same thing with Vietnam, and the same thing with 9/11. 9/11, they actually attacked themselves and blamed it on the Iraqis so that they could go into Iraq to rape Iraq for all their natural resources. The same thing they're doing in Congo, all right, raping Congo for all the cobalt and all the natural resources. They're actually doing all these things just to fulfill their own greedy lust, but under the guise of a false flag, making it look like they are the victims or they are the superheroes, so to speak, that they must go in and stand up for the American pride to defend themselves, when actually they actually are the cause, they are the problem, and they're trying to be the solution. Alright? But in the eyes of the sheeple, they're getting fooled because they're thinking that, yeah, everybody have a problem with America. But when you do the process of elimination, how would all people have a problem with one people? Are the same problem? Try to look at it from another spectrum. What about if there's one people trying to make a ruckus with all people, and exactly this America doing? Alright? Isaiah 14 and 12 said that the hammer of the whole earth cut down. Alright? This is Nahum chapter 3 verse 1. Warn to the bloody city, it is full of lies and robbery. Yeah, it is full of lies, because 9/11 was actually staged by themselves. And it's full of robbery because right now we're in Iraq and they're refusing to come out. Even the Vietnamese war, it was never meant to be won, but to be sustained. And the same thing with Iraq. It never meant to be won, it meant to be sustained. So that while the media focusing on the rebels and all of that, the same thing like in Congo, they're focusing on the rebels. They're showing like, all right, well, these rebels, they out of hand, so the American troops had to do something about it. But these same rebels trained and armed by the American forces. The same thing with their ISIS and all of these, because right now they're trying to enter into Iran. Because if you notice, all the false flags that are leading up to now, it always have a bearded guy, or somebody that directly so-called linked to ISIS, doing the so-called terrorist attack. Because why they want to, no, I ain't saying that he actually on point, because the only facts I dealing with is with the scriptures. But this guy Albert Pike, all right, in 1890 something, I believe, I can't remember the exact date, he actually made a prophecy about 3 world wars. All right, and he actually said that the First World War, they go put an end to the Tsar regime, which it did. The Second World War, it will put an end to communism, which it did. And the Third World War would actually be a conflict between the Zionists and the Islamic State. And that is actually what they're trying to push right now. So who knows? That is the guys that could actually push because war is money. And that is the reason they're doing it. That is why it said the war into the bloody city it is full of lies and robbery. Because everything America do, all the debts America do is actually so that the elites could benefit monetarily from it. Alright? And all these debts you're seeing right now, they don't care about the people. So they're just using the people to actually make themselves rich. It says the prey departed not. Because right now the prey departing from Iraq, it's in departing from Congo, it's in departing from Syria. Because why? What these countries have is resources, natural resources that the elites desire. The scriptures talk about who desire it is let me read it before just go and misquoting it. This is Habakkuk. So let's find it real quick. Just bear with me a second. Yeah, this is Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 12. It says, warn him that buildeth a tongue with blood and establishes a city by iniquity. And that is what he doing. He building a city by blood. Because he getting his riches off of what? Off of the debt of other people. Alright? That is what he doing. Alright? And it's been doing that from since World War One, from ever since. Alright? You might look and cause even going back to the ancient Roman times, he been doing that. Alright? Scriptures talk about one thing that increaseth that which is not hidden. Alright? Going back to Nahum, it says, I'll jump down to verse 4. It says, because of the multitude of thy whoredoms, of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcraft that selleth nations through a whoredom and families through a witchcraft. And how she's selling nations through a witchcraft? She's selling them because she's making them servitude through what? Like the central bank. Alright? And America is this well-favored harlot and the bloody city. Because all the things that they're doing, like the TV, that is witchcraft. Because what they do, going back to the Lusitania, with Pearl Harbor, with the Vietnam War, with 9/11, they actually use TV and like Fox, CNN, ABC. They use all these networks to actually push their lie. All right, to make it look to the whole world that guess what, we are the ones, we are the good guys actually, but in truth and in fact, they are the bad guys. All right, they are the bad guys. And the scripture said, thy own tongue shall confess against thee. That is why facts coming out that all these false flags, they actually staged. All these events, they actually staged. All right, they actually staged. This is Isaiah chapter 47, verse 10. It says, for thou hast trusted in thy wickedness. Thou hast said, none seeth me. And that is where the thing nobody's seeing them because we could just do these things. We could just blame it on the Muslims, kill a multitude of people and blame it on the Muslims. And everybody will just look at the Muslims that they are the ones that actually doing all this killing. Alright? But really and truly, the truth coming out that they are the ones that actually doing it. The so-called elites, the Rothschilds, the Oppenheimers, the Bilderbergers, they are the ones that actually doing it. Alright? And the truth coming out. The truth coming out. And we through the Spirit of the Most High, we actually bringing it out too. Alright? This is Ezekiel 26 verse 17. And they shall take up a lamentation for thee, and say to thee, how art thou destroyed, and that was inhabited of seafaring men, and the renowned city. Alright? It says the renowned city. which was strong in the sea, and she and her inhabitants, which caused their terror to be on all that haunted. All right, we said which caused their terror to be on all that haunted, because everybody that came up against America, basically to defend their own right, they were destroyed. The scripture said the hammer of the whole earth. All right, and that is what America did, went around and destroyed nations. And now the nations in these last days, the Most High raising up the nations to basically to do damage unto her, because the scripture said that many kings shall rise up against her. All right. This is Jeremiah 51 verse 7. It says, Babylon had been a golden cup in Yahweh's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. So the nation, no, look at this. The all right, the Orlando gay nightclub shooting that was staged. All right, and everybody believed that it was a terror attack. All right, the Las Vegas shooting. All right, because when you look at the whole source of all these things, it don't really make sense. All right, and people bringing out truth after truth after truth that these so-called terror attacks, they're actually not terror attacks, but actually false flags that the government itself staged for whatever, to bring in whatever might be a legislation, or might be to invade a country. All right, like you have here the Las Vegas massacre. All right, you have Sandy Hook. You have the Texas church shooting over the weekend. The shooting, I can't remember the name of the state, but in the cinema with the guy that dressed like Joker, I believe. All right, and all these were staged. Either it might bring a legislation to cause a destabilization in the economy, but wherever it is actually to aid the elites, the so-called elites, in their agenda to bring in the one world order. All right, and the scripture says, "Warn to them that go down to Egypt for help." That is why the scripture said Egypt will be their shame, because Egypt is just actually the destruction of you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, which are the house of Israel. All right, from since in early history, all the things that they've been doing is actually just rape, robbing, and murdering just to fulfill their own lusts. And they're actually doing the same thing again, and they're gonna keep doing it until the Most High come and destroy them. All right. So with that, hope it was edifying. I want to give all praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. Give double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone that rule well. Salutations to the men of the hopeful and sincere elect. All right, and hey, you're gonna see more false flags coming down to the end here, because we are at the end. All right, they're gonna bring in more false flags, because even the so-called crumbling stock market, the economy collapsing, even that is a false flag, because the central bank actually controls the economy, so they can make it float, they can make it sink, so they're actually controlling the economy. All right, and we're gonna see more false flags. All right, shalom.